Afternoon, folks. I hope you're all well. My name is Andrew, and I am in this webinar from Perth in Western Australia. And with me, I have our Associate Director from South Australia, Crystal Matthews, and our General Manager based in Brisbane, Simon Birchall. We are going to be presenting the webinar around self-management. The first thing that I would like to do is to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we dwell and pay its respects to our elders, past, present, and future. Where I am on the Whadjuk Noongar lands of Western Australia. We also acknowledge people with disability, past and present, those who are living full and complete lives, and those who have needs that are yet to be met. We ask you to reflect on this and to work with us to bring about the changes that will give all people with disability an opportunity to live an ordinary life. So thank you for coming today. It's lovely to see so many numbers in the participant box down the bottom. Pardon me. We are going to, the way we're going to structure this is we will run through the webinar. If you have any burning questions at any time through the webinar, please feel free to use the chat box if you can. Otherwise, feel free to email us as well, and we're quite happy to take those questions. We do already have some questions that have been sent to us, so we're going to address those as we go through. So I'm going to ask to start with Simon to give us a bit of a background on Physical Disability Australia and where we sit in the landscape of the disability sector in Australia. So thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Andrew. So Physical Disability Australia is a national peak representative organisation. We are the national peak body for people with lived experience of physical disability. Our purpose is to advocate for government to create equal opportunities. So basically what that means is that we participate in many meetings with the Department of Social Services, other government departments, the National Disability Insurance Agency, to make sure that they understand what the needs of our members and all Australians with physical disability are. We promote diversity and inclusion in those meetings, and we try to reflect the values of our organisation where we can. Basically, we started over 20 years ago. We have over 1,000 members, and that's our purpose, and we look forward to continuing that work with appropriate funding as soon as we can get it.
Thank you, Simon. It's always interesting to know the history of an organisation and why we do what we do. So moving right into the webinar, we're going to cover a bunch of topics today, and that'll be between Simon, Crystal, and myself. First off, we're going to look at what is NDIS self-management, and then we're going to move into what are the benefits of it. We're going to look at some self-management resources and look at our new website. Crystal and I are going to share some self-management stories with you, and Simon's going to introduce to you a new idea that we've had is around helping people to connect with self-managers, so a peer support in a peer support network frame. And then at the end of time permitting, we're going to have some questions and answers, and also we're going to talk about PDA membership. So let's get stuck straight into it, and I would like to introduce to you Crystal from South Australia, and she's going to tell us about the benefits of self-management.
Hi everybody, it's really exciting to be here tonight to speak with you all. Generally speaking, the benefits to being self-managed can vary depending on a person's circumstances. For me, at the end of the day, it just gives me choice around service providers, which I've never had before. So I've always being part of the disability sector, being born with cerebral palsy. So I have an understanding of what it was like prior to NDIS and what it is like now. So for me, that choice was one of the biggest benefits. And then also over time and getting to understand the NDIS system, I realized that I could better utilize my funds and get more supports and better supports that suit my needs in particular.
Cool. Thank you, Crystal. Really appreciate that. From my perspective as a self-manager, mine is to manage my own budget and to make sure that we have that I'm getting the best bang for the taxpayer buck that I can get. And self-management has helped me to do that. So let's roll straight into Simon. Would you please like to introduce us to the PDA self-management website, a bit of history about where it came from, and then just a real quick overview of the website itself so that our participants, all 18 of them in the room, which is fantastic to see you guys all here, can then have a squiz on their own, and then feel free to come back with questions if you guys have any after that. So cool. Simon, I'll throw it over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. So basically, the reason why we're in the self-management field is because we understand that a lot of PDA's members, being people with physical disability, are interested in getting maximum choice and control over their supports. So a couple of years ago, PDA applied for and won an information linkages and capacity building program grant to, in part, develop some self-management resources and to establish a self-management peer support network. So that's the background of the website. The website is up now on the internet, and this webinar technically launches the website. So I will click on the link here to open up the website and give you a brief tour of it. So this is the, just let me make sure that you can see that. So I need to unshare. Can you see the website there? Can you see the website? No, okay, just let me stop sharing and start sharing again. Okay, so you should be able to see the website now. Great. So the website basically has 5 sections, not counting the home page. This is a home page here. It just introduces the website and with some of the advantages that we've already talked about. The fact that the website has, it's got a link to the NDIS website where you can see their video about self-management and their guide that they produced. And then it's got links to the various sections of the website. So if we go back to the top of the screen there, so the first main section of the website is about eligibility. Basically, it tells you what you need to know about becoming a self-manager. There's a checklist here about whether or not you are eligible. And there's a link to the NDIS website about how to review and plan your goals. There's a how to request a change to your status. So if you're currently plan managed or agency managed, or you have a support coordinator and you want to change those arrangements, it talks about how you can organize that change. What to do if your application is rejected, and how you can get extra support in that case. The next section of the website is about preparation. This page is fairly brief. It basically talks about the types of supports that you can get under your NDIS plan. Those are core supports. So those are things like support workers to help you with your day-to-day living. The capacity building supports. These are things like therapies and other supports that you can get to develop your independence and skills. And then there are the capital supports. These are the bits of equipment and infrastructure and long-term supports that are put in place to help you live your best life. So There's also links to the NDIS Assistive Technology and Consumable Guide, which talks about the sorts of things that you can get on that you need on a day-to-day basis, and how to include them in your plan. So that's the preparation page. The resources page goes into the fine detail of setting up your self-management. It talks about budgeting. For instance, when you're budgeting for core supports, you need to think about what types of hours you need workers to attend you, and the various costs involved in those things. You need, with capacity building supports, it talks about how many sessions of each therapy you want to use and how much each session costs. So that's something you need to budget for. And then in terms of core workers, you need to think about whether you're going to employ workers yourself, whether they're going to be part-time or casual, or whether they're going to be self-employed contractors. So that's if you want to look at those sorts of things. You may decide that you just want to use a service provider that you've been using all along. So it talks about how you can engage them and get the best price for your supports. Down the bottom of the page, there are things about the price limits. So basically, the agency sets the maximum price that a service provider can charge for a given unit of support, whether that be a therapy session, whether that be a worker hour in your home, whether that be another type of support that you're looking at getting. So those are all published and they're updated on an annual basis. So that's a good link to have there. And then there's a list of, down the bottom of the page, there's a list of help sheets that talk about your workplace regulations. If you do decide your workplace obligations, if you do decide to be an employer of support workers, there's guides to the award rates that you need to pay workers. There's a spreadsheet calculator to help you work out how much to claim from the NDIS on a fortnightly basis or a monthly basis. There's and what your tax, superannuation and workers' compensation insurance requirements are. So there's lots of resources and links to them on that page there. And the next page that we have is the support page. This is basically a form. So if you think that you'd like to get into self-management, but you've got some questions about how to do that, there's a form that you can fill in there that will send an email to the PDA team, and we can get back to you with those things there. This form is also good if you have you want to get involved in our self-management peer support group, or if you have a comment about the website. We also have links there to our partner organisations in the National Disability Australia National Peaks Consortium. So if you identify with a different type of disability, there are links to the various organisations there. And the final section of the website is the Your Stories page. This is the best part because it's got people's success stories. So we've got some stories from PDA members about their self-management journeys. And two of those people are going to talk about their self-management journeys in this webinar this evening. So that's a quick tour of the self-management website that we've got there. It's got a really good URL, ndisselfmanagement.com.au is the website there.
That's awesome. Thank you, Simon. Really appreciate that. We do have a couple of questions in the chat box. One from Brad. Do we have a definition of self-management? NDIS, other ? So what would be a definition of self-management?
Would you like me to answer that?
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Either.
So self-management is a situation where the NDIS basically allows you to work out exactly what you want to spend your money on. So for instance, if your support plan includes 40 hours of personal care support in your home per week, then it says self-management basically says you work out how that's done for you. You engage a service provider, or you engage your own support workers. You make a claim on that through the NDIS portal, and then you pay those workers or that support provider yourself. So it's basically you take the role of the support coordinator traditionally takes. You do it all yourself. That's what self-management is. The same goes for home modifications and for assistive technology equipment and for capacity building supports. You're not relying on somebody else to find the people to provide the support for you. You do that yourself. And one of the principal benefits of that is that you can get the best value for money. You're not paying any other organisations overheads, and so you can make your support dollars stretch further.
Thank you, Simon. That's really, really good information. Abraham's also asked a question: how do you arrange for reimbursement of claims? Crystal, do you want to go there?
As in, like, when we pay for something upfront and then get reimbursed. Well, I actually find it quite simple. Sometimes if I have to pay for something upfront, I have a bank card in which I can do that. And then I get a copy of the invoice, and then I upload the invoice and I get reimbursed that way. So it sounds complicated in theory, but it's not.
Yeah, cool.
How long does it take for the money to get into your bank account after you make a claim?
1 to 2 days for me if I submit invoices during business days.
Cool.
So it's really quick.
Yeah. I hope that helps, Abraham. Thank you very much for that question. Really appreciate it. So let's move along. Let me just close down my chat box. Okay, so the next one we'll look at, I'm going to hand this straight back to Crystal again. You just jumped screens again, Simon.
Yeah, just go back to the slideshow.
That's cool. That's better. Thank you. I think for the way that we do this, personal stories are very, very personal, and they're very different. So just because someone makes this work in one particular aspect, it may not work for you. So just be aware that every single situation is different as well. So Crystal, would you like to just give us an overview of your story and where that comes from in the self-management?
Yep, sure. So I guess on the surface, when we talk about self-management, it can sound quite complex and scary, but the more you learn about it, the more you realize it's actually a lot simpler in a way, because it kind of cuts out the middleman. So what I always started off as self-managed, but what I did was I engaged with a lot of NDIS providers just to kind of scope out how things operated and what I needed and how that worked with my goals. And I guess that allowed me the opportunity to see the difference between an NDIS provider and going outside of that as well. So I need a support person with me like 4 days a week, which is really helpful. I really appreciate it. But at the same time, it can be hard having someone come into your home on a regular basis and needing to rely on them to undertake certain activities. So I wanted to make sure that the person that was coming to my home understood me as a person, understood what my goals were, and was able to fit within my lifestyle. So I then was able to advertise for a support person on Facebook. And I know that sounds quite extreme, but it's actually getting quite popular these days. So traditionally, when I went through a service, I was paying close to $100 an hour for a support person to come to my home. Going through my own way, I was able to make up rates and go through there and get it at a lot cheaper rate. So I was getting it cheaper, and then the support person was also getting more money than what they would if they were employed through an agency. And I was able to screen people in a way that I wanted to. So when I would advertise on Facebook, there would be like 3 key questions that I would ask. And one of them would be like, why would you want to work in this role? And if their responses were centered around, I love helping disabled people, it makes me feel good about myself, I was like, okay, they're not for me because I don't want to be viewed as a charity case. So I was able to kind of screen people out based on how they thought about disability, essentially. And then second to that, I was able to make sure a person had the clearances that I wanted. So I wanted someone with child clearances because I have children in the home. I wanted someone who had liability insurance and their own ABM number. So with that, I would screen 3 people, and then I would do like a trial run at my house for like 3 hours with each person. And I would really recommend that, because if you're having someone come into your home so often, you really need to get an understanding of their personality like very quickly. And then being able to do a trial run really gives you a sense of how much they talk, which sounds interesting to say, but some people can be very informal straight off the bat. And then it gives you a sense of how much initiative they can take and how much they're willing to support you, do what you need to do, but not take over as well. And then that allowed me to kind of go, okay, this person gets me and how I operate. This person also understands boundaries and that I don't want another friend, or I don't want to hear their life story. So then I was able to get a person that fit really well within my needs, within my family's needs, that wasn't too overbearing. So that's how I go about recruiting staff. With budgeting and invoices, so I ask the support person or providers to send me an invoice. I have one dedicated email address where all of my invoices go to. It's not used for anything else. I then review the invoices based on the price guide that we've agreed to. And if it all lines up, I submit the invoice to MyGov, the NDIS portal, and then I pay the person. And I have one bank account that is dedicated only to NDIS funds. So none of my money gets confused with NDIS money. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Excellent.
I noticed there was a question before about how you cover bank fees and things like that with this sort of thing. Basically, what you claim from the agency doesn't have to just be limited to whatever invoices that you get. If you have out-of-pocket expenses for an accountant or for bank accounts or for anything like that, then you can add that to your claim, and then that's what it covers. Basically, your service providers do exactly the same thing. When they charge you $100 an hour, that's to cover their bank fees and their accounting costs and all of that sort of stuff too. So there's nothing to stop you from claiming that, because that's part of the job of organising your support, and you're entitled to claim that money too.
Awesome. Thanks for that clarification, Simon. Appreciate it. It's one of those little curly ones that people sometimes forget as well. There's been another couple of questions on there. I replied to yours, Jonathan, regarding employing someone. So what would you say to someone who's never employed their own staff? There's training for that sort of thing. Self-management training through organisations like DSC is probably one of the bigger ones. It's based in South Australia, but there's organisations all over Australia that do this type of training. And it's a big push by the agency to get people to do this. So it's worthwhile exploring that capacity building for yourself as an individual so that you can go down the road of self-management as well. But yeah, there's plenty of places like that. So for my perspective as in self-management, it's just a tiny little bit different to Crystal's, because I actually don't employ any staff. I am a left below knee amputee, and my journey with self-management was always around very high cost assistive technologies. And when I say high cost, I'm talking about the photo that you guys should be able to see with me with that red and black thing on my leg. That alone is $1,700. So it's very, very high cost. Where the leg itself is about $16,000 complete. There's a lot of hours goes into building something like that, and there's a lot of therapy hours that come into it as well. So I'm not only taking funding from my capital budget, but I'm also taking a lot of funding from my capacity building budget for my prosthetist as in therapy hours. Now, I have come across a couple of issues with that in the past. Now I have much more control over how that gets paid. I had found that one particular prosthetic provider had put in for a certain amount of funding to come out of my plan, but I wasn't there. I didn't actually have that appointment at all. So for me, self-managers, it gives me that choice and that control of being able to make sure that everything is above board as well. And the way I figure it is it's not my money. It's the taxpayers' money, and I've got to use it the best way that I can use it. So I'm very, very careful about how much goes in and how much goes out. As Simon alluded to earlier as well, the home modifications, a lot of people have said that home modifications can't be self-managed. They have to go through the agency. I categorically can say that they can be self-managed. I'm just at the tail end of mine at the moment, and that budget was just over $100,000. So it's not a small amount of change. But again, being self-managed, it gives me the capability and the capacity to go to my builder and say, you know what, I'd really like to change something in that, or can I add something to that to make it, more user-friendly for me as the participant? And I don't have to make any changes to plans or changes to scopes of works or anything like that at all. So it works out much better for me. As I said, my equipment is expensive, and the more bang for the buck that I can get out of my equipment and out of my therapy hours, I'm going to take it as much as I can. Pardon me. So setting up boundaries as well. Because I don't have support staff per se, I still have those professional boundaries with my prosthetist. He loves to talk, and I'm very happy to talk to him as long as it's off the clock, because I'm not going to pay for 3 hours of his time when he only does an hour's worth of work. I'm very, so you get that choice, you get to have that control. And I just find that, at the end of the year, that there's some money left over in the budget for something, and I can use that for something else. So it's not about being like a super control freak, but it's about freeing you up to make decisions that are going to help you through the year as well. So that's why I like self-management, and I don't find it hard to manage it. I'm not a bank person. I'm not detail oriented in finances. I'm a professional musician by trade. I play for food. So, money doesn't mean a lot to me in that space, but I found it really easy to get an invoice, go onto the portal, claim it, and then it goes straight back into my bank account. And with my high cost stuff, I just ask for an invoice up front and say, how much is this going to cost me? They'll give me a figure, and then I make them stick to that. So they give me an invoice, and then I put that in on and I claim it. And that's how that works. So I'm not out of pocket myself. And especially when we're talking, multiples of thousands of dollars, you don't want to be out of pocket. Self-management actually helps you in that frame rather than hinders you. So that's sort of my take on it. It's, as I say, it's a lot different to Crystal's, and it's a lot different to you guys out there as well. But, everybody's got a story to go along with this. So, happy to take any more questions around that. If there is, I'm just going to check the chat box. What do we got? Abraham says, organize a folder for paid and unpaid invoices to be more organized. Thank you very much. I will take that on board. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Robert, who's our Associate Director in Victoria, has asked, how do you self-manage AT budget? Do you still need to submit reports from your providers to the NDIA before money is paid? No, you don't have to submit reports to the NDIA before the money is paid. For us, as I know that Robert is an amputee himself, they will put in an assistive technology request, and then the money that is that's tied to that within your funding plan will get released to you or as a self-manager, and then you pay it like that. So that's sort of a bit of a ballpark figure about that. And Robert, I'm very happy to take that up with you. I'll take that on notice if you want to have a whole bunch of more information on that. Peter's asked, so Andrew, this is all set up in your plan, these high cost items? Yes, they are. They're all quote required, and they all come under capital. Someone has asked previously about a question about items under $1,000. You don't need reports for items under $1,000. If you've got the consumable budgets, you can actually go and buy those. You don't need an OT's report. But when you're talking about multiples of thousands of dollars, you definitely need to have a report to go with that, because the NDIA just won't release the funding for it. Liz, our Associate Director in Northern Territory, has said, I set up an NDIS library file and organised it by providers and upload everything, even down to ABNs for each of my providers. Excellent. That's a really good one. Thank you, Liz, for that. Appreciate it. And I hope you're well up in the Northern Territory. No worries, Rob. No worries, Robert. Not a problem at all. Okay, so we're going to move along now. What do we got next? Let me get back to my, okay, cool. Simon, would you like to have a bit of a chat around the peer support network and what we hope to achieve with this?
Okay, so as I showed you on the support section of the website, basically we're looking to set up a peer support network. So for instance, you just had a bit of a conversation there where Andrew was helping Rob out with some information about what you need to do with regards to OT reports and that sort of thing, and whether they need to be submitted by yourself and that kind of stuff. We want to have that across the physical disability spectrum. So if you're interested in buying a wheelchair, we want to be able to hook you up with somebody who has bought a wheelchair through their self-managed plan and what it involved. So basically what we want, as many of you as possible, is to fill out the form on their self-management website. That will come to us, and we can start building up a database of people who can provide support, as well as those people who need support, and help to link you up. It's a voluntary service that we hope that you can provide for each other, and we look forward to managing that process and helping as many of you as we can to undertake self-management of your supports.
That's great. Thanks, Simon. Can I just chuck a question out to all the participants in the room? Do you think this is going to be useful? Just want to gauge an interest, that's all. Just chuck a yeah, a Y or an N in the chat box. Absolutely. From Liz, thank you. Yep, absolutely. From Brad, yes, from Colin, awesome. Yeah, beautiful. Yes, hope to self-manage in the future. Beautiful. Great. That's good, Robert. Well done. Oh, that's fantastic. Look, we exist because for you guys. That's what we're here for. So if this is something that's going to help you, then we're more than happy to promote it. And we will work with whoever wants to get on board as a peer support networker to help build their skills in this space as well. So thank you for that, Simon. That's really, really good. I got to get back to my screen. Okay, cool. All right. Look, we are just about at the end of this. That went really, really fast. Like really quick. Has anybody got any really burning questions that they want to ask the panelists at all while we're here? And some raise a hand. No, I think we. Oh, okay. No questions. Have we got any questions at all?
I did get some questions emailed to me before time. Crystal asked, can I change to self-management at any time or only when a new plan starts? Basically, you can request a change to self-management at any stage. It's just a case of getting in touch with your LAC or the NDIS directly and telling them that's what you want to do. They can give you information about what it will take, and you should get a decision about that in fairly short order. Colin,
Simon, is that what they call a change of circumstance?
It's just a light touch review, I think they call it at the moment.
Yep, cool. Excellent.
Colin asks, will underspends on community access due to COVID-19 affect future plan funding? That's nothing really to do with self-management. I'm not sure about that. We would have to take that question on notice and get back to people. There is a lot of talk at the moment about people's funding being reduced because the government's worried about financial sustainability of the scheme, but I don't know whether a particular underspend would cause that or not. But that's something we can certainly arrange. If you'd like to email me at manager@pda.org.au, I can put that on the question list for the next time that we have a meeting with the agency. Brad asks, under what circumstances can NDIS decline a participant the choice of self-management? The NDIS will only make that decision if there's some reason to believe that you're not capable of doing it. So if you have some kind of diminished capacity, or if you've overspent your plan in the past, then those might be circumstances when they say that you can't self-manage, and they'll want to put a support coordinator or manage your plan themselves. Will PDA assist you in your fight at the AAT for self-management? PDA is not in a position to assist you really. We can refer you to organisations who are funded to provide you with advocacy support at the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. That Physical Disability Australia does not have that capacity at the moment. Again, if you email me at manager@pda.org.au, I can refer you on to some of those organisations who can.
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, and Peter asked for small items, $1,000. Is an AT report required? I think, Andrew, you answered that question that it's not.
I'm going to caveat that, because if it's an AT level 3 or 4, even at $500 or $1,000, yes, it does. So okay. It depends on the level, and it depends on what the assistive technology is.
Yep, but under $1,500, it should be fine.
Okay. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So we've got another couple of questions. Liz has said it's really important to get a couple of quotes, and I agree 100% with that. For any of your supports, and it doesn't matter whether it's capital supports, whether it's core supports, whether it's capacity building supports. Yeah, get a couple of quotes, because there's a lot of difference in a lot of them. Brad Mark has asked a question: Are you paid in your positions? No, no. We're the directors and the associate directors of Physical Disability Australia are all volunteers. At this stage, we have a pretty much every state in Australia is represented by a director and a state director. I think bar Queensland. We're looking for an associate director in Queensland. But no, we are not. This is all volunteer for us. We do this because it's about us giving back to our communities. Crystal, would you like to add anything to that particular?
Yeah, I just really would like to see as many people out there feel confident and capable of being self-managed. And I think once you get the hang of it, like the amount of empowerment you feel less like a client and more like a business person who's kind of managing their own lives, and you're able to get a team around you of people that you trust and that you like. And so for me, I just want as many people as possible to feel the same way I do around self-management. That's
great. Thank you, Crystal. So Mark, we don't get paid. We do have 3 paid employees. Simon is our general manager. We have Natasha, who is our communications and engagement manager, and we employ a bookkeeper / accountant as well. But those guys, we're funded through different grants, different streams. It's very technical in that space. I'm more than happy to explain it all, but I would actually rather pass you on to our treasurer because he'll explain it a lot better than I can. But no, we don't get paid. It's all volunteer work for us. So your presence is our reward for this, because it makes, well, we know that we're actually doing something out there. Oh, Peter Simpson's asked a question. Assistive technologies and home mods, are they different? Yes and no. Assistive technologies, the definition of an assistive technology is something that's going to help a person with a disability live a full and complete life. So in that answer, assistive technologies and home modifications are the same thing, but in the scheme of NDIS, assistive technology and assistive technology home modifications are two separate things. Even though they go to the same end. I hope that makes sense, Peter. And Liz has written, self-management allows me to have people who I choose in my and my family's worlds. That's that, and that in as much as it is that's pretty much it. The self-management, you know, you get to choose who you want in your life and how they're going to support you. Bahar, I'm going to take that question that you've asked on notice, if you don't mind, because I don't actually know the answer to it. So I will take it on notice and we will get back to you with that one. So yeah, thank you, Peter. That's fine. Has anybody got any other questions? Anything burning issues that we can help with? No. Well, I think we've done an excellent job and everybody knows exactly how to do self-management. So we'll all see you around in the self-management world. Please reach out to us if you have any questions, manager@pda.org.au, and then Simon will, he'll pass those through to appropriate people within the board to help out with that. So I want to thank Crystal coming in from South Australia today. And I want to thank Simon coming in from Brisbane, and also want to thank Natasha. She's been in the background, giving us questions and a whole bunch of stuff like that. Oh, okay. I've just done one more question in here. Brad, again, we're going to take that question on notice because there's a bunch of changes that have just come up about supports and holidays. So if you're okay with that, can we take that on notice?
Yeah, send an email.
Yeah, send Simon an email around. That would be great. Cool. Thanks, Brad. I really appreciate that. So, yep. So we said, Natasha, Simon, Crystal, thank you guys for the work you've put into this. I really appreciate it.
Just before we go, the last thing that was on our list of things to talk about was PDA membership.
Yes.
It's free. If you just go to the pda.org.au website and click on the membership tab at the top of the page, fill in your details. You become a member of PDA. It's all free. We keep you informed with our newsletters and our social media updates and those kind of things. There are invitations to join online social hours and all the other fun activities that we have, as well as future webinars. It's the best thing that you can do to help us at this point in time. And also, we will be receiving a link to a survey following the end of this webinar. Could I ask you please to complete that survey? It really, really helps us to understand the sorts of things that we're doing well and not doing well. And it's part of our reporting requirements for being able to do these sorts of things. So if you could complete that survey, that would be fantastic. You can also watch the previous webinars on our YouTube channel, and there should be a link to the survey with those as well. So if you watch those and you get enjoyment out of those, again, complete the survey. It really helps us to make sure that we're doing a good job.
Thank you, Simon. Appreciate that. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you all for coming. And on behalf of the board and the staff of Physical Disability Australia, I'd like to wish you all a safe and happy Christmas. And we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. So thank you very much for coming.